running to the left. He's being chased, tries to get outside. He does! He's got the first down! Drake Maye with the knee for the final time. The Patriots will spill off their sideline. They are headed to Super Bowl 60.
And welcome back to episode number 103. The New England Patriots are heading to their, 11th Super Bowl, 12th Super Bowl, career Super Bowl. First time since 2018, after a dreaded 5-year stretch. Poor Patriots fans.
7.
But those kids born in 2000 haven't experienced a Super Bowl yet, but they're finally going to be able to do that. But the New England Patriots, Drake Maye, Mike Vrabel, are heading back to the Super Bowl down in Santa Clara, California. Let's just start it off right off the bat, guys. How are we feeling right now? And what were your thoughts on the AFC Championship game, and what are your thoughts heading into this week or next week?
I'm pumped.
Yeah, how could you not be? There's nothing that could take me down at this point. It's almost surreal.
You muted yourself, brother.
That's how excited I am. I don't know how to use my controller. I don't know how anything could take down just how exciting it is the bit that we're back after, as you said, the last 5 years and especially the past 2. It's just as dark and abysmal as those years were. This year's been the complete opposite. Championship game was kind of what we expected, as all these games really have been. Defensive battle, couldn't really get anything going, especially through the air, and then obviously the snow came and the wind and everything else. So you really kind of forced yourself to just make it a defensive game and get stops. And obviously with Jarrett Stidham, it was easier than it certainly would have been with Bo Nix. But I mean, Super Bowl at the beginning of the year, I was happy with 8-9 wins, and maybe
that was the over under. We were like, maybe 9-10 wins if they things hit well, maybe 11. And
maybe
then we
sneak into a wild card game or whatever.
Yeah, we sat there at 14-3, and we were like, all right, I kind of like us versus the Chargers, and it was I kind of like us versus the Texans, and then it was like, okay,
yeah. Bo Nix is out. Oh, now I'm pissed if I don't make the Super Bowl. Like that's just it's insane how it changed. But yeah, back where we belong. 5 years was too long. No one had it worse than us these past 5 years, and now we're back. So everything's right in the world.
I mean, realistically, outside of maybe the Jets, we did have
one really did have it worse than us.
It was abysmal.
It was as bad as it looked.
It just was only 5 years. That's
yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
true. No one's gonna feel bad for us.
We're not the Browns or the Jets or the Giants or whatever, but yes, it was equally that bad for these last 5 years.
Yeah.
Where are you? How are you feeling?
I mean, like I said, I'm pumped. And obviously, Super Bowl was 7 years ago. We had, 2020 was like a meh year. Obviously, 2021, we kind of got a little bit of a lightning in the bottle situation with Mac Jones and winning 10 games, but ultimately getting blown out in the playoffs by Josh Allen. And then, it's about time. There's kindergartners out there that haven't seen the Patriots have a successful season. Those poor tortured souls. You guys. One of the things I had thought, and Matt and I talked about this, about how going into this season, I thought that if everything went perfectly, like Drake Maye made that next step, the coaching staff is what really made a difference, and they took advantage of a softer schedule, and I think we knew that going in, that it was a softer schedule for this year. I was like, if everything goes great and the perfect storm takes place, I was like, we get 11 wins, maybe we kind of sniff the division, even if we don't win it. Like I still expected the Bills to win the division. And thought, if we can get in as a wild card and maybe win a game, and then, even if we competitively lose in the wild card, I would have been perfectly happy with that. And As Scott Zolak so eloquently said, after the Patriots beat the Chiefs in overtime in the 2018 season's AFC Championship, America's worst nightmare is back. Maybe off the top of my head, I can't think of a quicker turnaround of an NFL franchise. Obviously teams go through lulls. You had the early 2000s Steelers that the Patriots, had beaten. And then, the Steelers get to the Super Bowl. They win Super Bowl 40. And then, they go back to this, they win it and they win Super Bowl 43. And then, it's a while, like they get back there a couple years later. And then, it was another 4 or 5 years before they really even sniffed a Super Bowl. And, here we are. And, we had some rough years. And then I think that's part of, why I bring up the Steelers. The Steelers are, consistently at least knocking on the door of the playoffs or in the playoffs year in and year out. I know Mike Tomlin's not there anymore, but he never had a losing season.
Note, horrible hire.
I mean, if we want, save that for the final thoughts. No, if you want. But
don't tell me what
yeah,
to do.
I mean, obviously. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm thrilled. I thought that, that we had some, you had talked about like the playoff run. There was some cautious optimism that, we could get past LA. And I thought, that we had a game plan in our heads of like, okay, well, if we do.
Not if we asked you, though.
I was saving it for later, but yeah.
No, I'm always
because
I know. We talked about this last weekend. I'm always cautiously optimistic, and I try to keep my emotions tempered because I've been burned enough times in the past. I mean, I said, 2007 Super Bowl, I didn't envision a scenario losing. And probably more recently, like losing to the Jets in the 2010 playoffs. I think that was the year the Steelers went to the Super Bowl over the Packers. Like that year, I was like dumbfounded. I'm like, how on earth do you lose to this Jets team?
Losing
like,
to the Eagles was mine.
Sunday morning, my daughter was sick. My newborn daughter is sick. I'm dealing with her. My wife's sick. And I got Ben yapping through to me about how the Patriots are going to lose and it's going to be the worst thing ever and all this, all that. I'm like, dude, I don't got time. Like,
I got bigger things to deal with.
It's just like I was obviously like already like preoccupied with my mind and tired and exhausted. And he's over here like, I think we could lose the turnover battle and this and we're going to lose and I don't feel confident. I'm like, Ben, stop it. I don't have time for this right now.
Yeah.
Like the dad and Step Brothers. I don't give a fuck.
Yep. No power tools.
Exactly.
But no, I mean, obviously I'm thrilled. It's been kind of one of those every week it was kind of a survive in advance. Obviously, the Houston game I would argue holistically was our best performance as a team. Obviously the defense dominated the Chargers game and the Broncos game, and the offense was kind of like, I know the elements obviously played a factor a couple days ago, but I mean, if you had told me that the Patriots would be in the Super Bowl, I don't know, what was the season start 4 months ago? If you told me before the season, I'd be like, yeah, no, like you're crazy. And
dude, I went to bed on Sunday, mad at myself that I didn't put $20 on them to make the Super Bowl in August. Like what? No one ever saw this. Like that would have been, 20 times X whatever it was.
Well, they got the fourth highest odds to make next year's win next year's Super Bowl.
Quick Patriots breaking news: Bill Belichick will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is not being He is not in the 2026 NFL Hall of Fame class, according to Seth Wickersham and Don Van Natta.
Seth Wickersham was the first to know that and the first to put that out.
Exactly. Yep. Well, does that make him is he off the ballot entirely, or is he just not a finalist?
Just not a first ballot.
He was named a finalist. So it says here. So this is from Schefter 2 minutes ago. It says Belichick, 8-time Super Bowl winning head coach, will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer according to Seth Wickersham. And then this other guy, Don Van Natta, who apparently he's a writer for ESPN. He fell short of needing the 40 out of 50 votes that you have to be on 80% of the ballots, and he was not on 80%.
That is insane to me. I mean, say what you will about his last 5 years, there's no reason he should not be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
It's the same. it's the same thing.
Broncos also fired
Like-
their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh God, you know that Scott Kaxmere guy, whatever his name is
Who?
on X. He's like a notorious Patriots
Oh,
hater.
is he the guy you go
Like,
back
all-
and forth with about Drake May all the time? On
that I
Twitter?
did, and then he
Or you
he
used to?
blocked me because I
Classic.
embarrassed him. to
How
the
do you
point
spell?
where he got?
What's
yeah,
it? What,
I made him
what's his
admit.
last name?
Kacsmar. I literally got him to admit that
That's
he
Kaz-
manipulated numbers to deliberately like push an anti-Patriots narrative and being dishonest. And he had never admitted that. It was like the first time I interacted with the dude, and I got him to admit it. But anyways, he just posted Philip Rivers came out of retirement and was leading in Seattle with the final minutes of it as a two touchdown underdog. Let's not act like it would be some heroic upset by New England.
Jesus
After
Christ.
picking the New England to lose every game in the playoffs. He's already hedging his bets.
Some people you just can't. Yeah, you're like we're
Do you
we're
follow him?
underdogs.
'Cause I
We have no
didn't see him
chance
tweet
until
that.
we do.
I don't. Well, I'm blocked, but someone posted a screenshot of the video. I mean, of the
The
post.
picture.
Oh, because his last post was from. I just brought up his ex, and his last post was talking about how Lambeau Field has lost its mystique as a playoff advantage venue. Because apparently Fox Sports posted and said where the toughest places to play in North America of any sport, and said that Lumen Field in Seattle was one, Lambeau was two.
This guy's just a notorious Patriots hater. Like he used to just spend the entire time taking down Brady, and then all he does is guzzle Mahomes' you know what. And then now that May is good, he's transitioned into being a full-time May hater.
That just sounds like
So I was like,
great.
It all started because he posted. It was like the Patriots were like 8-2 or something like that, and he was like, he posted like May's record with 26 plus pass attempts, and I was like, you really had to specifically do 26 plus,
yeah.
not 25 or 30. You had to do 26 plus because he has 2 wins with 25 pass attempts.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "Yeah, okay." But anyways, back to the main subject. New England Patriots. It's just kind of wild to me.
It is.
Like,
It's so surreal, honestly.
it is just, yeah. I mean, from like we've just talked about from the start of the season to be where we are now, it is kind of just been a whirlwind of like it's not like they just came out of nowhere, because it was a slow rise, and it was like, okay, maybe this team's decent. Okay, maybe this team's good. Maybe it's great. Maybe they could actually go on a run. And now we're sitting here on the Tuesday after the AFC Championship game, and we're saying, they're arguably, you could argue they're the best team in football. They're playing probably the other option if you had to say the best team in football. The biggest takeaway that I have from the AFC Championship, but the last 3 games in general, is what this defense has done. I went back and forth with someone today about like, is the Patriots defense disrespected right now? I said, absolutely. Like, it's absolutely disrespected
So, yeah,
right now.
100%.
After the Chargers game, it was, oh, it's just the O-line and playoff Herbert. And then it was, Stroud just sucked. They're literally memeing Stroud now. Like when you turn the quarterback into a meme, you're basically saying like he was the only reason that they lost. And then, I know it's Stidham, but you go down in Denver and you overwhelm what was supposedly the best offensive line in football. Like they overwhelmed them. They won that matchup, I think, pretty convincingly.
From literally the first play of the game, too. It wasn't like it was all day.
Yeah, and so it's like I look at this and we're at 3 straight games now where they've really just dominated from start to finish. Denver literally had one play, one big play, one nice pass from Stidham down the field. Other than that, they did
It was a busted
absolutely nothing from start to finish. And you could sit there and say like, it's Stidham and all that. people didn't have problems picking them to win. I know that it was probably like 2/3 Patriots for picks, but like there was a third of the media that was still picking Denver. There was 2/3 of the media that was picking Houston. There was at least half, 2/3 of the media that was picking LA Chargers. And then to come back and say now, the easiest schedule, blah, 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 blah. No, it's time to give the Patriots defense some credit. They have shut down 3 straight teams. And you look into that and how that plays out. And it's, I don't think May has played great in any of the games. I also don't think he's played bad necessarily in any of the 3 games. He certainly had shaky moments the first 2 weeks. And then this past week, it's not like he did much. But, like, that was just the game. Like, that was how the game played out. Obviously, it was, like a tornado blizzard down there in the second half. But he made the big plays. And that is the biggest thing over the last 2 weeks for me from him is, he's not dominating, but he's making the big plays that they need him to make. This past weekend, obviously the last play of the game, but the flea flicker to Matt Collins, the scramble run for the touchdown, the scramble run right before the half, even though they didn't score, but in that moment, like that was a huge play.
Just to even get him a shot at kicking a field goal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Borregales if Borregales gets a second shot, I think he makes that kick. I think he tried a little too hard because he had the distance. He just pulled it.
Is this the 60-yarder or is this the other one?
It was the 62-yarder,
something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. He pulled it a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought it looked like he had the distance. He just pulled it left.
I mean,
Callahan, I mentioned it to you. Callahan said that he was hitting from 61 with ease or something like that during pre-warm-ups. He can certainly hit that, especially in Denver. Obviously, you can kick the ball a little bit further. But, that's been my biggest thing about May is there's certainly been shaky moments, but he's come up and made a lot of the big plays when it really mattered. And he did that against Houston and in LA as well. And so you look at that and say, okay, if they can like play in normal weather and be in a situation where they can get this offense and get it back on track. The fact is Seattle's defense hasn't been anything special recently. LA put up points on them. Like, they play well. They're a good defense. But the Patriots, it's not like it's anything special especially compared to what they've played. So I look at it and I'm like,
to be fair, LA has a much better offense than the Patriots do.
Yeah, they have more weapons for sure, but I think
better talent. But I mean, like scoring wise over the year, like they were 1-2. Like the Patriots put up the second most points right behind the Rams. It's not like Good.
I was just going to say, I just think that, if you were I just feel like when you have like 4 legitimate players on offense and that are not your quarterback, you're in a better position to score than the Patriots, in my opinion. Like, literally, like Nacua and
you have Puka and Adams and Kyron.
Right, and Adams and Nacua were Pro Football Focus's number 1 and number 2 ranked wide receivers this year. And then you add in, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum's good, Colby Parkinson is good. Like their offense is more dynamic. I'm not saying the Patriots can't score points, but
No.
LA has a more prolific offense than the Patriots do.
Correct. And obviously, kind of looking forward into that round, into the Super Bowl, it's like. The Patriots have a good offense. Seattle's got a good defense. Seattle's got a good offense, and the Patriots got a good defense. Stephen A. coming out today and was like, there's no chance. Like this, Seth Rollins, who the wrestler who all of a sudden is now making like football picks apparently on the media, basically said the same thing. Like there's no shot. I think Seattle deserves to be favorites. Just based off of how the playoffs went and stuff like that. but I think that this is anyone's ball game type of situation. I mean, am I kind of being a homer there saying that? Like,
no, I think you brought up a point earlier in kind of like your last spiel that I was going to get to as well. This will be the first, I mean, like presumably, I don't know what the weather looks like in 2 weeks. None of us do, but like this will be presumably the first playoff game that the Patriots play in good weather. It was terrible against LA. Obviously, it was a snowstorm against Houston, and then even worse against Denver.
Preliminarily speaking, it's going to be mostly sunny and 70 during the day, which
perfect.
means it'll probably be, you figure 6:30 Eastern time kickoff is 3:30 on the West Coast. So you figure like maybe it's 68 degrees and not 70.
Exactly.
At that point, it's not the heat of the day anymore. But I mean, yeah, you're looking at mostly sunny and, September, October weather.
Sure. So like we've seen like the weather clearly affects, Drake May, or at least it looks like it has these playoffs. So if you take that away, you're getting back to when he was at his best, which was really the entire year, outside of a few maybe like not great plays. So that's going to completely change the way that this offense operates, both from a run game standpoint, but obviously with the passing game as well. So I think Seattle definitely should be favored just because of the way that it's gone, the way they've looked, the way that everything seems to be clicking at the same time. Where fine, sure, our offense hasn't been great, but I think the elements and the weather certainly plays into that as well. So that was like the big piece that I was looking at is finally getting back to a outdoor game with good, if not great, weather for football. Will certainly just eliminate and wipe out some of those like negative thoughts and statements everyone's been making about the Patriots and Drake May and the offense.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I look at for this offense right now is, first of all, I whether it's weather or not, I think they're coming out a little bit too cautious. May seems to be a little bit more antsy early in the game than he does as the game progresses. I don't know if that's nerves on his end, not so much confidence, but you know what I mean. When he settles it's your first time there, it's your first time there. You can get nervous. It's very easy to get nervous.
He's always done that too all year.
Yeah, and so it's like, I don't know if that's something you can really solve other than to try to give him the plays to get him going like quicker than he usually does. It's easy to kind of play into that and say, well, he's a little nervous. Maybe we shouldn't force it. And, that could work if the defense is playing well too. But like you're going up against a Seattle offense that can put up points. They're going to be a little bit, more aware of that in the concept of like, you go down 10-0, 14-0, 14-3, something like that to Seattle, like, anything can happen, but you put yourself in a big hole and now you're trying to dig yourself out because you were a little bit too conservative. So that's something I really, really want to see them do, is kind of be a little bit more aggressive in the early, first, second, third drive that they have. Really set a standard. And I'll just say, after all this, if one way or another, the Patriots ended up like just dominating, not even so much dominating, just like having a convincing win, people might want to block me.
I will be an asshole. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm going to be insufferable.
I mean,
oh my God, it's going to be unbelievable.
It's rare to see a Super Bowl blowout. I mean, obviously we just had one last year. And the one you would,
it doesn't even have to be a blowout. Like if they won like 27-17, and it's just like one of those, like, they had the lead, they took the lead early, they held the lead the whole game.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Something not like a last minute field goal or anything like that, but they convincingly win.
ESPN will still make it
Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
yeah, they'll,
Josh
they'll-
Chubb, we didn't deserve it. Yeah, 100%.
yeah, they'll say that
Sam Darnold.
it was Sam Darnold with an oblique injury that
exactly. Yeah, he was seeing ghosts, and
or
then pulled that up again. And everything else.
Orlovsky will say that 31 other quarterbacks would have beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl in that case.
I used to like him too, man. He's gotten just hard to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't dislike Orlovsky, but it's like you got to be consistent. Dude.
Yeah, bro. You were a fan of Drake May all year, and now all of a sudden you're not. Like,
I think part of the problem is, they're up there and they're giving their takes and their opinions so often.
Yeah,
and sometimes they forget their past opinions and they let their bias kind of play into it. So it was like, you're gonna sit there and say that the Coach of the Year award, that strength of schedule doesn't matter in the Coach of the Year award, but it matters in the MVP vote. Like, if there was ever going to be an award to consider strength of schedule, it is Coach of the Year because it's coaching the entire team. Like, your record in your schedule matters the most. Like, it was just baffling levels of contradiction and hypocrisy.
That's the problem with these, like, First Take and everything else is like, just get back to SportsCenter. We don't really need to hear your thoughts.
But hey, Ben, I know your answer to this, but I'll let you go on about it. Is Drake May injured?
Yes.
What's the extent you think?
I mean, by my standards, I'm probably overblowing it. But
no way.
So
he has 2 weeks to live.
Yeah, right.
So yeah,
no shot. No shit.
So this is just where like the wheel starts to turn a little bit, because there's two sides of this to me. We spent 20 some odd years listening to Bill Belichick and the entire operation basically give these like politician type answers where they answer a question and it doesn't actually answer the question. So part of it is that to me, where is Mike Vrabel telling the guys like, hey, like we're not gonna address certain questions because that's not our focus. People are gonna make a big deal about this, blah blah blah, because and I don't know what his name was, some random internet doctor apparently said that he was like 100% convinced that Drake May has a right shoulder injury, and so that became a thing. And Toucher and Hardy kind of blew up Andrew Callahan's spot this morning on the radio, basically. So Toucher is a huge Lions fan, being from Detroit. I don't know if that means he's just not a Patriots fan, but he's definitely a Lions fan.
It's a contrarian, I think, really.
But yeah, like I don't know if he's just being right. I just don't know if he's being a contrarian for the sake of the show. But he basically was like, yeah, Drake May's injured, and was trying to pigeonhole Callahan into talking about it. And Callahan was like punting and had said like, I'm not addressing the issue. So there is that component. But then there's the other part of my brain that says, well, if you didn't have an injury, why wouldn't you just say, yeah, no, like, I understand people, they may have seen or read or saw something, but yeah, no, like I'm not, like everything's fine, like I'm good to go. So it's like, I don't see a benefit to playing up the idea that he may be injured by not directly just saying no, he's not hurt. I know, because it's like Drake May on WEEI was asked point blank. I forget who Fitzy's co-host is on the 2 to 6 show, but he basically point blank, they were like, did you injure your right shoulder in the AFC Championship game? And his answer was, he goes,
like, yeah, I throw a bunch all year. It hurts.
And he was like, yeah, he was like, well, I feel good, and it'll be good to get some extra rest and this, that, and then the follow-up question, that was the weird one that kind of threw me off. So the follow-up question was, do you expect to be limited in the next 2 weeks at practice or in the game? Was more or less the question. And he goes, it's too early to say. It's like what's the benefit to that answer? There's no benefit to them I don't see a benefit to them going that route if there's nothing wrong with him. Like, I understand that, it's the end of a season. They're 21 games in. Everyone's got bumps and bruises. Nobody's 100% healthy, which is what Vrabel's saying. It's just weird that they wouldn't be like, oh yeah, no, like you're making a big deal out of nothing. Like, somebody saw something. There's no problem here. Like, Drake May is going to be good to go. Like, he's healthy in the way that a football player is healthy at the end of a long season, but like, we don't have any concerns about his shoulder. Instead, you got the Bill Belichick answer of, well, we'll address the injury status when the injury report comes out, when we have to submit it to the league.
Well, that
And
was
it's
kind
like,
of Vrabel's point. He was like, we're 21 games into the season, everyone's hurt, and kind of like sidestepped the question that way. But I agree with you. And Drake May's answer was like, ooh, there was something there that like he didn't necessarily come out and say, yeah, I'm injured. But he definitely didn't not say it. I do think he's playing hurt. I think he's playing through something for sure. To the extent that I would call him injured, I'm not there. I mean, he finished the game out. He was still able to
yeah,
make
that's
the
true. That's true.
make the
I'll give you
throw.
that.
He was still able to make the flea flicker throw to you just said it, to Mac Hollins at the end of the games or whenever that was. So he can make throws. He can still do it. But I think he made a good point of like, yeah, I'm throwing 30 times a day in practice, and then whatever game day call. So I think, and now this is the optimism side of me coming out. I do think that maybe there was some truth in him saying like it's too early to tell if I'm going to sit out practices because I don't need to throw it 90 times in 3 days or whatever the case. So give us some rest that way. But that being said, I am good to go. So I do think that's I took it as kind of that more so than we'll see if I'm actually injured, what the docs say, whatever. But again, I also am more optimistic on the Patriots than you.
And I think hurts. I think the better word. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if at some point after the Super Bowl they say that Drake May has to have some kind of a procedure done on something, right? Like, they said that about Josh Allen. There's something going on with his foot, and he may or may not need an off-season cleanup procedure or something or other.
Like the old Bruins players, every time they would lose in the playoffs or someone Berge has a punctured lung or a collapsed rib cage or whatever, like they hide all these things until after the season's over, so they don't have to put it on an injury report. But I don't think he's injured. I do think he's definitely hurt, but I don't think the extent is.
I think long story short, he'll be fine. Like it's just I don't think it's anything to really worry about. Maybe it's sore, maybe he fell on it and it's a little bit tender. Like on top of the fact that it's a Super Bowl. He sat there and he made some plays with the arm throwing like the accurate ball, like you said to Hollins, like that was a dime. Yep. He was had no problem, using that right arm to push away the defender. To stiff arm. I couldn't think of the word stiff arm. To stiff arm the defender on the last play. Like, it's just not something I'm really worried about. So even if it is a little dinged up, he does have 2 weeks now, to get it rested and rehabilitated, and it's just really not something that I am concerned about it in the slightest. And then heading into the Super Bowl, they should be fully healthy, right? I don't think there was anybody else that got banged up. I know Spillane got a little bit injured, but he returned, I think.
He returned. Landry was out, so I haven't heard anything about him.
Oh yeah, Landry was the one.
Yeah, I don't think Spillane came back. I'd have to go back.
No, he did. He did come back, but he missed like a quarter and a half.
Yeah, he came back on the sidelines, and there was a report that he was out of because I guess he went to the tent, then he went to the locker room, then he came back. But then I don't recall seeing him on the field. I mean, then again,
he did come back on the field. It just took him a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he might have just tweaked the ankle a little bit. Again, now he's got 2 weeks to get it right. I think you'll look at Landry and I think he'll end up being active. They're not that they're saying they were arresting him for the Super Bowl, but I think they looked at it and said it's bad enough right now where you probably can only play, a dozen snaps. So let's get someone in there that can potentially play on special teams and help in other ways. I mean, we saw something like that. Leonard Taylor Taylor gets the call up, blocks, tips the field goal, makes a big play. Does that happen if Harold Landry is healthy? Like you really don't know. It's just the example, but I think Landry will end up being healthy. Not so much healthy. I think he will be good enough, Super Bowl healthy, if that makes sense. Yeah. Super Bowl healthy to the point where he'll be able to kind of give it a go. In terms of your confidence level, I'm just looking at comments. In terms of your confidence level in, the offense's ability to score points, Are you worried that this offense is going to come out and be stagnant again, and in their only path to winning is like a lower scoring game, or do you believe that this offense can refine its consistency here, heading into nicer weather, another great defense, but certainly a more basic situation weather-wise?
Yeah, they'll definitely find themselves again. I mean, like I mentioned before, getting back to good weather, getting back to like sunny and what do you say, 68 after sunset, whatever it is, like they'll find it again.
Yeah.
I mean, they faced good defenses before they faced better defenses than Seattle's before. I mean, just the one that comes to mind is the Browns. They put up 33, 35 against them, whatever it was. So I don't necessarily have too many doubts in their ability to put up points. I mean, their defensive line is pretty good. I don't necessarily know. I know like their secondary is pretty good with Reek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, and that rookie they have as well. But I mean, you just saw
Nick Eamon-Worry.
Yeah. I mean, you just saw, right? I mean, in the NFC Championship, there was a fourth down stop or a third down stop, whatever it was. Reek Woolen then goes showboats on the sidelines and gives up a first down, and then Puka gets to beat them again. So I think there's certainly some disciplinary issues with the team as well, their defense, I should say. So no, I don't have any real issues or like nothing's holding me back from thinking that they can't put up 24, 28 points against this team. It'll come down to, as you said at the beginning of one of your last spiels, like, does Drake May come out and need to be calmed down a little bit? Does he sail a throw on 3rd and 8? Does he show signs of nervousness or show signs of just nerves in general too soon? And then that gets him in a hole because he throws an interception or he throws, a couple 3 and outs, and then the defense, gives up a long bomb or whatever the case.
Was that a good sneeze, Ben?
It was a terrible sneeze that I mistimed.
No, we didn't hear it, but like when you came back, your face was like,
yeah, it's great.
I didn't even see it, but
yeah, exactly.
No, that's pretty much it. So I don't really have any like issues or any like nothing's holding me back from saying that they're not going to find themselves again, because like I said, this is like they still put up 20. Was it 28 against Houston in the snow? I guess it was 21 because after their offense.
The offense accounted for 21 because they had
so
the pick six.
And that was in a blizzard. That was in a snowstorm against the best defense in the NFL.
And they had like 4 or 5 turnovers in the process.
Yeah. So, no, I don't have any issues with them putting up points.
I'm not as confident. Big shocker there, I'm sure. I just haven't seen enough to feel super confident. I mean, obviously, if you get 68, 70 degree sunny weather with minimal wind, I mean, obviously, weather here tends to change on a dime, whereas Southern California tends to be way more consistent. So like I said, the look ahead looks like 70-ish with like next to no wind and mostly sunny skies. So looks like a really good weather day, to score some points. I think, I think Seattle you can score on this defense. Obviously, thinking about this game, you think about Super Bowl 49. And I think that defense was more formidable than this one. Mostly probably in large part due to the fact that I feel like that defense had more name-worthy players, between Sherman and Chancellor and Wagner and Bennett and all those other guys. The Seahawks I don't know where they ranked, but in terms of their pressure on the quarterback, I think of the teams they've played, they're the least prone to sacking the quarterback. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but they sacked the quarterback 47 times this year, which is 2 and 3/4 sacks a game, which is whatever. Like the Patriots had 35 sacks this year, so it feels like they're closer to like a bottom, like league average, not bottom. The Patriots were bottom, but 47 feels like a league average number, nothing super scary. So I think that, if they can not get exposed on the offensive line, I think the Patriots can score on the Seahawks. It's just that, obviously recency bias notwithstanding, it's difficult to feel good being watching them not put up points against really good defenses. And so for me, it's just I haven't seen it yet in the playoffs. So it's I don't know how, I don't see how I can feel confident in that. I think that, I started doing a little bit of my research today in Seattle. Their defensive scheme is very much like Houston's. They play zone, way above league average. They're about an 80% zone team in terms of their coverages. I don't know how often they blitz, but they don't sack the quarterback at a high rate at all. And I think that they're prone to some miscommunications on the defensive end. You saw in the NFC Championship game, Eman Wari gets the taunting penalty, literally was on the other team's sideline jawing with coaches. The ref even gave him an opportunity to walk away, and he didn't. So the ref was kind of forced to throw the flag there. He even gave the guy the chance to get out of there without a penalty. I don't know if that's a culture thing. I heard this on 98.5 yesterday. So Mike McDonald comes from the Ravens system, and they tend to be, the headhunting type, they're rough and tough. They want to get in your face, beat you up kind of defense. So, but I mean, you saw a couple times against that Rams defense, the Rams offense. Seattle had some busted coverages, and maybe the Patriots can take advantage of that. The other thing, and this is going to sound weird coming from me, I'm more confident. I'm more calm, cool, collected, confident going into this game than I was last week. It's a neutral site game. I mean, obviously the Seahawks are more familiar with it than the Patriots are because they play there once a year. But all things considered, I think that the Seahawks are prone to things that hopefully we can exploit. They don't give up a ton on the ground, but I think the Patriots need to utilize Henderson way more than they did against Denver. And I think the elements obviously played more of a hand in that because Stevenson is a much better blocker than Henderson is at this point, and has had more success running the ball this postseason. But yeah, I mean, I think that, if they can keep the pass rush at bay, which I think they can, that, they can put up points. I just want to see it. And Matt, to your point, if they can be aggressive, but not reckless early in the game and move the ball down the field and expose some weaknesses on the defense that they can take advantage of as the game unfolds, then, even if, say that first couple of drives, they're moving the ball, but they just don't finish at the end, but you're okay, I can kind of see how the Patriots are attacking them and we can continue to do that, drive after drive. That'll be good. As opposed to, going out there and you see conservative play calling and, they get three, they go 3 and out and they gain 3 yards in the first possession. But yeah, I think they can score and hopefully they can do that. And
yeah, going back to your point about the sacks, as a team, the Seahawks are eighth best in the league at least in the regular season. I don't know what they are in the playoffs, where we were 7th worst. And a linebacker is the only one who has, or is the only non-defensive lineman, I should say, who has over 5 sacks. So kind of, that puts more of a spotlight on our O-line, Will Campbell especially. I feel like he's been kind of getting picked on these playoffs, which is to be expected when you're a left tackle, I realize. So I think that, barring
so you're saying
anything,
that their front 4 is what gets after the quarterback, is what you're saying, not their linebackers.
Yeah, Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, and DeMarcus Lawrence all have 6+ sacks.
Okay,
and then the rest of them have 3.5. Jaron Reed has 2. And then they're Uchenna Nwosu, their linebacker, is their sack leader with 7.5.
Okay.
So no one really stands out in terms of a Nick Bosa type, but I guess they get after him. Whatever they do as a scheme, they scheme players up and get the quarterback enough.
I mean, they should Seattle's got a good defense. They, like you kind of mentioned, they have a good scheme. They know how to mix things up on the offensive line, whether it's stunts. or specialty blitzes, all that type of stuff. They definitely throw a good mix of things at you. The good thing is, I trust Josh McDaniels, despite I think he's been like you said, a little too conservative. Especially this past weekend, which weather obviously played a factor in the whole situation and kind of the flow of the game. But I don't think there's anything that you go into this game and say like that Josh can't adjust to, like, and that's the benefit of like having a highly seasoned vet offensive coordinator. He's going to know what to expect. So it's like, I'm not terribly worried about that. Like I kind of said before, my biggest worry is they're going to, be conservative and they'll go down 10-3, 13-3, something like that, because, they didn't really kind of put the foot to the gas pedal right away. And they fell behind it, and they're going to have to spend the rest of the game kind of trying to catch up.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that, NFL teams tend to script to the start of the game because they want to feel out the defense, right? But I think that you can, if you're smart with your aggression, I think that you can take advantage of that. I've only really started preliminarily looking into the Seahawks defense in terms of kind of what to expect. They've been okay against the run for teams that played. There was obviously 8 teams played at least 2 playoff games this year, and they were 5th. They've given up 111 yards rushing in their 2 games, and so again, one of those being Christian McCaffrey, and then obviously Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, and I thought that they ran the ball okay. Corum kind of looked like he had some success. And so, it would be nice if they could, expose a few things and take advantage of some weaknesses. But again, at least historically, I don't think, I shouldn't say none, because Charlie Weiss was their offensive coordinator for 3 of the Super Bowls under Brady. But I feel like, since it's been McDaniels, it feels like the offense tends to be a little bit more conservative. I mean, as we well know, Tom Brady has only ever scored 7 points in his career in the first quarter of Super Bowl, and that came in his Super Bowl with Tampa back in 2020. The Patriots had 0 first quarter points in the 6 Super Bowls that they won. Well, the 9 that they went to with Brady, they scored 0 points in the first quarter. I'm not worried about it. I touched on like the experience thing before. The Patriots have a little bit more experience than the Seahawks do in terms of the Super Bowl situation. Obviously, Vrabel went to 4 Super Bowls and won 3 of them. McDaniels is he 3? He's a 3-time, 3-time Super Bowl champ as offensive coordinator with the Patriots. And they've got a couple of players with some experience as well, most notably Milton Williams last year. So I'm not necessarily worried about them not understanding the moment. I think it's going to come down to execution to start. Obviously, you're talking about the greatest single game playoff game on planet Earth, maybe next to the World Cup final. And the Brights are huge. Like, you've got billions of people watching worldwide. So there's going to be some jitters for sure, but I feel confident with the with certain things we have in place that McDaniels will have a good plan for Drake May, and can be in his ear and getting him to calm down and just enjoy the moment and settle in and and trust the process.
Yeah, I mean, for as inexperienced maybe as I think the only player on offense that I can think of who's played in a Super Bowl is Mac Hollins. Obviously you said that Milton Williams is probably like the biggest, most notable Super Bowl player who's been there in the past. I think Christian Ellis, I think I read as well. But the coaching staff as well obviously has a ton of experience. You just went on about, McDaniels, and then clearly Mike Vrabel too. So he's been there as a player. He can kind of relate as he always does. To them too. So I don't necessarily I'm kind of with you. I don't necessarily have any real issues with them, like letting the moment get to them, letting the moment become bigger than it is, and kind of getting overwhelmed that way. The question then is, how do you relay that to your best players, and especially Drake May? And I think because of the rapport and the relationship that him and Vrabel have, gives me all the confidence in the world that they'll be able to figure it out, and they'll be able to talk to him, communicate with him, and kind of let him know what to expect before that Sunday comes.
Yeah, and they
Matt, you're on mute.
Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate, I think that the calming effect of the coaching staff is going to be paramount.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just to kind of parlay things that the Patriots can hopefully take advantage of. I'd have to really dig into the schedule. I don't think Seattle played a team that had a great defense this year, in terms of scheme, edge rush. Not that we have a great edge rush. I think it's good. But one of the things I think that is beneficial, right, especially where he's not mobile, Sam Darnold had the most turnovers of any quarterback this year with 20. He threw 14 interceptions and 6 fumbles. And I think that, not to pick on Tom Brady, but what was Tom Brady's biggest, like, if you were gonna beat Tom Brady, what did you have to do? You had to get pressure up the middle in his face, because he wasn't, like, he could slide in the pocket, but Tom Brady was not a mobile quarterback that was going to run away from pressure and either throw the ball away or extend a play or scramble for some yards to turn a negative into a positive. And then that's Sam Darnold. And the Rams are not a great pass rushing team, and to top that off, they're not a great coverage team. So of course, he's going to pick that defense apart if they're not going to put pressure on him, and they don't have their guys are not good coverage players on the back end. So, if they can, take advantage and force Sam Darnold into some situations, that might be something they can take advantage of too. And like I said, the Seahawks don't have a ton of experience. I think Sam Darnold is the only player. Well, Cooper Kupp has Super Bowl experience, winning it with the Rams 4 years ago. But other than that, it's nobody else really has a Super Bowl experience. Sam Darnold's been there. He was the backup in San Francisco the year they lost to the Chiefs in Vegas. So, whether that becomes a factor, I don't know, but I think it is a small piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. And I don't want to go too deep into everything, I guess, because we do want to have something to talk about next week. But just like one stat that I heard today, and it was kind of glaring to me, was Seattle was number 2, and you kind of mentioned with Darnold, but Seattle as a whole, as a team, had the second most turnovers per game at 1.65. The teams, I'm just going to list you the top 10 teams. The Vikings missed the playoffs, then Seattle. Browns, Dolphins, Saints, Bengals, Commanders, Colts, Jets, Raiders.
So they're the only. So wait a minute. So you kind of cut out there for a second. So they have the second most turnovers per game, and of the 10 worst teams, they were the only team to make the playoffs.
Correct.
Wow.
Okay.
11 is the Panthers. Then the Ravens.
Where's the lowest ranked? Where's the next lowest ranked playoff team, and who is it?
It's the Panthers at 11. They're technically tied with the Commanders in the last 4 at 1.35.
Okay, what
then
about
after them?
What about a real playoff team?
The 49ers are 13th at 1.29.
Okay.
To perspective, the Patriots were 23rd at 0.94.
So they were average. So I mean, they were averaging half a turnover less per game. Yeah, I mean, and that's like we've talked about for the first 3 Patriots playoff games, that turnovers are going to be the key. Obviously, Sam Darnold has never beaten the Patriots in his career. Granted, all of those games came with the New York Jets when and not that they're not now, but the Jets were always bad. I think after seeing what the Patriots defense has done, and again, we haven't seen what the Patriots defense can do when the other team doesn't have to go up against elements. But like at this point, after 3 games of seeing what they've done to opposing quarterbacks, I think that I trust their ability to come up with creative, effective, and successful ways to put pressure on Darnold, to speed up the clock, to force throws, hopefully take advantage
Make
of
him see ghosts.
and hopefully take advantage of some mistakes. I mean, obviously this is his what? He was the 2018, so this is he just completed his 7th year in the NFL. So, obviously he's grown and evolved and matured as a player. You would expect. He had back-to-back really good years. But the thing about Sam Darnold, Sam Darnold didn't have a great year throwing the football. He had a good year. He was just over 4,000 yards. He had 25 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. If you were to put those numbers, if you were to say that Drake May was going to preseason, Drake May was going to throw for just under 4,100 yards with 25 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, you'd be like, all right, I'd take that for a 23-year-old quarterback with no offensive weapons to throw to.
He started off hot and then fell off, as the season went on. He's played well, but all right. I do want to wrap this up though, because like I said, we'll have plenty to talk about next week, and I don't want to not have anything to talk about. So any final thoughts here before we head into what will be, I think, Media Monday, and then we'll probably be back at some point next week or unfortunately not going to Radio Row.
That was my only final thought. So now I have to find something else. But I guess just to wrap up, or to kind of put a bow on Ben's point about Darnold up the middle, their center, I guess they have 2 centers, but their center, Jalen Sundell, is one of the worst ranked centers in the league. So
I think their other center, I forget his name, it will be back. The center and left guard are good. Their right guard sucks.
Yeah, their left side of the line is pretty good.
You're talking about the Seahawks offensive line?
Yeah. Jalen Sundell's the starter now, but I think that Olu, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, if he's back, like Matt said, he was a little bit better, but neither one of them are very good.
So let's see. Final thoughts. I just to kind of go back to how we started this, it doesn't really feel surreal. Like, pinch me. Like, am I dreaming? Are we really, we really going to the Super Bowl? And
I know.
It feels great. This feels like the right situation for this organization. I'm so glad that the Cleveland Browns, well, yeah, we could thank them too, but super thankful the Tennessee Titans decided that Mike Vrabel wasn't good enough to coach that team, and that the Cleveland Browns didn't want him really to be anything more than, what was he, basically like a special assistant to the GM or something. So, final thoughts, obviously get healthy. They're, as cliche as it sounds, they're 60 minutes away from a Super Bowl. I think that, I feel better going into this game than I did with the Tom Brady led team that played against Seattle 11 years ago. I think it's a different story on both sides of the ball. That 2014 version of the Seahawks defense, the Legion of Boom, felt pretty daunting, which I think, maybe the best Super Bowl performance of all time, given what Tom Brady had to go up against. But, feeling good, get healthy, and then looking forward to diving in and, seeing, the ins and outs of both teams, and hopefully where the Patriots can take advantage and hoist a 7th Lombardi trophy that would be an NFL record. And then also Drake May would become the youngest quarterback to ever win it. Ironically, both would break Pittsburgh Steelers records.
And I'll just be miserably insufferable. So, all right. That's it for this week. We'll be back obviously next week. But until then, we'll go Pats. We're in the Super Bowl. Everyone enjoy it. Enjoy the process, and the Red Sox make a trade. All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye.